One of those opportunities that's been in the news is the GSP fight. Tell us how that came about, because apparently this was being bandied about before your fight with Dan Henderson, and then it went away. How did that come up?
So, I filmed a movie in Toronto last year. Earlier this year, pardon me. And I got to know one of Georges St-Pierre's trainers, a guy called Jorge Blanco, very nice guy, and I did some training with him. And through that avenue, a little later, a few months went by, but through that avenue I kind of heard that after I won the title, of course, after I became champion, George expressed the desire, St-Pierre, to come back and fight me. I was like, oh, interesting, okay, all right, but then I thought nothing of it. The Henderson fight was made, and as I say, that was out of my mind. Then just recently, last week, I hear that George has spoken to the UFC about it, about wanting to fight me. The UFC approached me as well, also to see if a deal could be done. Would I be willing to fight him? I said, yeah, of course. I mean, Georges St-Pierre is a huge star. His return would be a massive event. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. Stylistically, I think I win the fight, of course, whatever. But those things aside, from a business perspective, I'm like, yeah, of course, absolutely. So, as I say, it wasn't me looking for George. George came looking for me. The UFC asked me if I'd be interested. I said yes. Apparently, they couldn't get a deal done. So, from what I understand, it's dead in the water. And that's about the bulk of the situation.
All right. So you've said yes. Apparently, it just hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
It seems like you still have your mind kind of set on wanting 206.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing was, I mean, I thought I was taking some time off and just enjoying Christmas with my family. A friend of mine said recently, because I was talking about fighting, again pretty soon, and he said, "Why would you do that?" He said, "Why don't you just take some time, enjoy being the champion, do some appearances, milk it, just milk being the champion for a while." And I was like, no, I want to fight. I want to make some money while I still can. But then, as I say, UFC came to me with this GSP thing, and then just got me thinking. And they said, we were thinking 206 in Toronto. And then it got me thinking. And then I started really breaking it down. I said, well, yeah, of course I could fight in 6 weeks. And I'll be honest, another payday in 6 weeks sounds bloody good to me. I love Toronto. I've got a lot of friends there. It's a beautiful city. So I was like, yeah, well, fuck it. If GSP doesn't want to do it, if there's anyone else that wants to do it, I'm here. I'm in. As long as it makes sense.
Now, you've recently mentioned Nick Diaz's name.
Yeah.
Tell us about that thought process in that challenge. Is that an official challenge to Nick Diaz?
It's not so much an official challenge. I mean, yes and no. Of course, as I said, the Georges St-Pierre thing made a lot of sense business-wise. I think Nick Diaz would make a lot of sense business-wise. Now, I know the outcry from the MMA hardcores is going to be, what the fuck? This guy isn't even 185, yada, yada, yada. We all know the situation, the landscape right now. All the top guys are fighting.
Well, he did fight Anderson Silva at 185.
Yeah, he fought Anderson Silva, went the distance, went 5 rounds. Against an Anderson that was juicing. So, I know the other top guys in my division are currently booked. They got fights right now. So, and UFC 206 is around the corner. So Nick Diaz, with the greatest of respect, if he wants to go, as he says, don't be scared, homie. Let's do this. Where you at, Nick? So yeah, I'm more than happy to oblige. If Nick wanted to do it, great. If George wanted to do it, great. If there's another person out there that makes sense business-wise, I'll do it again.
How do you think a fight with Nick would go?
Come on. I win. I win the fight. We know this. I win the fight with George. I win the fight with Nick. It's good for me. I make a lot of money, and I win the fight. And then I got a real test with the big boys at 185.
Well, you got to try to sell these fights. What do either of those fighters, do they pose any potential problems, dangers for you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Georges St-Pierre is pound for pound probably the best fighter in the history of the UFC. You could argue he's undefeated. He only ever lost to Matt Hughes and Serra. He avenged both of those losses massively, destroyed them. And the guy went on a tear. A very, very dominant champion. great wrestling, all this type of stuff. So yes, of course, he poses threats. I'm an English guy. We can't wrestle. He's a wrestler. You put that together, there's a challenge there for sure.
What about Nick?
Yeah, Nick, you know, Nick fights like a dog. He's got great boxing. He's got sick jiu-jitsu. You know, he's a tall guy. Put all those things together, the guy can fight. So it's not like they would be a walk in the park. These are two of the best fighters in the world. But I will fight them right now. I just had a fucking cookie. I've been on the piss for 2 weeks. I don't care. I'll fight them. Get me another cookie. Get me a round of beers. Give me 2 more weeks of sitting on my ass, and I'll still fight at UFC 206 against either of them.